You know, the very words you're speaking right now, they tell a secret history, a story of invasion, religion, and, yeah, trade. Today, English is spoken by nearly 2 billion people, but it all started as the harsh, guttural tongue of a few Germanic tribes. So how did it grow, change, and pretty much conquer the world? Well, let's dive in and find out. This right here, this is the secret sauce, the key to English's success. It's not about being pure, far from it. It's all about adaptability. You see, unlike some languages that try to keep outside influences at bay, English has always been this total thief, a voracious borrower, a collector of words. And that, as we're about to see, is its greatest strength. And that is the big question we're going to tackle today. We're about to go on a journey through centuries of invasions and innovations, all to see how this one tiny language built an entire empire of words, one borrowed piece at a time. Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story begins way back, around the year 449 AD. The Roman Empire had just packed up and left Britain, leaving this huge power vacuum. And who swept in to fill that space? The Anglo-Saxons, these Germanic tribes from mainland Europe. And, of course, they brought their language with them. So this first layer, what we call Old English, was super practical. I mean, it was all about the essentials. These words represent the absolute core of human experience: family, home, survival. Think about it: man, wife, house, fight. They're short, they're punchy, and they are the absolute bedrock of our vocabulary today. So the first big shakeup didn't come from an invasion, not in the way you'd think. It didn't come from a sword, but from a cross. Missionaries started arriving from Rome and other Christian hubs, bringing a new faith and, this is the crucial part, new words for concepts the Anglo-Saxons had never really needed to talk about before. And you can totally see the shift right here. All of a sudden, alongside simple words like house and meat, English needed words like priest from Latin and school from Greek. This was the language of learning, of religion. It was like adding this whole new layer of, highbrow, scholarly words on top of that basic Germanic foundation. So just when English was getting kinda comfortable with all these new fancy words, another wave of visitors showed up on the shore. And let's just say these folks weren't exactly known for their quiet study habits. The Vikings came to raid for sure, but a lot of them also came to stay, and they brought their own tough, practical language right along with them. And here's the crazy part. The Viking influence was massive, but it was also, well, really ordinary. Just look at these words: sky, leg, knife, window. I mean, think about it. Even basic pronouns like they, them, and their, and the verb are. We use these words a million times a day without ever realizing they're a gift from the Northmen who settled in England over 1,000 years ago. Okay, so we've had the Anglo-Saxons, the missionaries, the Vikings, but all of that, it was just the warm-up act. Now we get to the main event, the Norman conquest. This was a total French reinvention of the language. You gotta remember this year, 1066. William the Conqueror and his Norman armies sail across the Channel from France and take over England. This wasn't just a new king on the throne. Oh no, this was a full-blown linguistic earthquake that basically split the English language right down the middle. So for the next 300 years, England was a two-language country. It was wild. You had the common folk, the farmers, still speaking English. But the new bosses, the government, the courts, all the nobility, they were all speaking Norman French. Overnight, English became the language of the powerless, while French became the language of power, of sophistication, of prestige. And the result? Thousands upon thousands of French words just flooded into English. We're talking words for law, like attorney and judge, words for fancy food, like beef and pork, and words for all the finer things in life, like music and art. English was becoming a true hybrid, a language with a Germanic body and a very stylish French wardrobe. Okay, so after surviving all these invasions and what was basically a linguistic class war, English was finally ready for its next big phase. By the late 1400s, it started to stabilize and then expand, all thanks to two powerful new forces. The first big push came from technology. The printing press arrives in London around 1476, and bam, it's an absolute game changer. For the first time ever, books could be mass-produced. This meant printers had to start making choices about spelling and grammar, which helped create a more uniform, standard English that people could understand all across the country. And at the very same time, there was this other huge force at play: exploration. As English ships started sailing all over the globe for trade and colonization, they bumped into new cultures, new foods, new ideas, and, like it always does, English didn't hesitate to snatch up their words. The language basically went on a global shopping spree. And just look at this haul. From our European neighbors, we grabbed rodeo and taco from Spanish, spaghetti and diva from Italian, boss and caboose from Dutch, and ballet from French. Seriously, the vocabulary was just exploding in every possible direction. And trust me, it did not stop in Europe. We got mango and jaguar from Portuguese, kung fu from Chinese, sushi and tsunami from Japanese, and moccasin and tomahawk from Native American languages. English was literally becoming a map of the world, told in words. So that's the history in a nutshell. But here's the cool thing. This story is not over, not by a long shot. In fact, you can actually see all these historical layers for yourself. The process that built English is still happening today, and there's a really simple way to see it in action. The secret is to start thinking about word families. These are just groups of words that all grew from the same original root word, usually from an ancient language like Latin or Greek. Once you get this, you can basically become a word detective yourself. Check this out. It's a perfect example. Take the Greek root monos, which means single or alone. A monopoly is controlled by one group. A monologue is a speech by one person. And monotonous means a single, unchanging tone. See how that works? That ancient Greek root is still in there, kind of hiding in plain sight, connecting all these different words. And that really brings us right up to today. The big takeaway here is that this whole process, it never stopped. English, it's still the world's greatest word borrower, soaking up new terms from technology, science, and pop culture every single day. When you really think about it, the story of English is just a story of constant, relentless evolution. It's a language built by farmers, missionaries, Vikings, and Norman nobles. It was standardized by printers and spread around the world by sailors and traders. It really is the whole world wrapped up in one language. Which leaves us with one last big question. What on earth is it going to borrow next?